Before we hop into the color grade, there are a few things I want to go over that I feel like are important for you to know. First things first is the equipment I use to shoot all my images. I shoot on a Sony FX3 with a Sigma Art 2 lens, and usually on there I'll always have a 1:5 variable ND filter. I will get into the reasoning behind that a little later in this video. I also edit on a 2023 M2 14-inch MacBook Pro. Next, which is a common question I always get, I do want to get into my camera settings. For one, I shoot in Cine EI mode on the FX3. I also shoot in S-Log 3 on the FX3, which is also Cine, Gamut 3 Dot, and Cine. I also shoot in the base ISOs on Cine EI mode on the FX3, which is base ISO 800 and base ISO 12,800, which takes me back to why I usually always have a variable ND filter on my camera. Even at the 12,800 ISO, I find that sometimes my image is a little too bright, and the variable ND filter always helps me bring my exposure down correctly. Next, I shoot in 30 frames per second because it gives me the most realistic feeling. I also shoot in the XAVC-I 4K file format. Don't know if I said that right. I find that this file format gives me better quality with smaller files. This is important because, for one, I do want the best quality when I'm uploading my files. I don't want to edit a low quality image. With that being said, I also don't want humongous file size. Usually the larger the file size, the slower your computer will work. And I don't want my computer being so slow that I can't even get through the editing process. So this file format, while it gives me better quality, it also gives me smaller files, which is like the best of both worlds. Next, I want to talk about film. There's a lot of looks that you can go for when you're color grading your image. The look I personally love and adore is the film look. I feel like film and its characteristics definitely give you a nostalgic feeling when you're looking at your image. There are certain characteristics that film has. The two I think are the most important in terms of selling the film look are halation and grain. There are other film characteristics such as bloom, film breathe, gate weave, and film damage. All of these characteristics play a role in making your image look like film. And today I'll be showing you 3 methods on how to achieve that film look. The first being a plugin called Dehancer, the second being a power grade called CinePrint 16, and the third being completely free within DaVinci Resolve. Lastly, I do want to talk about my settings, in particular for all my MacBook users out there. I find that sometimes when I export my image, my colors don't look the same as they were in DaVinci Resolve. I've been doing my research and I found some settings that will help you get the most accurate colors on your MacBook, so when you export, your images don't look different. The first setting I want to talk about is your general preference settings. Go up here to DaVinci Resolve, click Preferences, and go all the way down to General. You want to make sure that Use Mac Display Color Profiles for Viewers is toggled on. You also want to make sure automatically tag Rec 709 Scene Clips as Rec 709A. You want to make sure both of these are toggled on if you're editing on a MacBook. After you click and save that, next you want to go down to your project settings, which is this little setting wheel down here. You want to go to your color management and you want to make sure your timeline color space is in Rec 709A. Once you change these settings, it'll definitely help you get more accurate colors in terms of editing on a MacBook. Now that we've gone over those settings, the last setting to really fix is your export settings. I will be saving this for the end of the video. These settings are crucial to exporting high quality content. So if you want to see the export settings that I use, stick around to the end for that. I do also want to mention I do have a discount code with Dehancer. So if you do want to purchase anything from the Dehancer website, using my discount code, you will get 10% off your purchase. Your purchase does help this channel. If you want to help the channel and you want your color grades to look really nice, by all means, please visit the Dehancer website. Those links will be down in the description below. All right, so first thing you want to do is create 2 color space transform nodes. To do this, I just press Option S to generate another node, and you want to make both of these color space transform nodes. So you just go to the search bar, type in color, and color space transform should pop up. I'm going to put color space transform here, and I'm going to put a color space transform in this second one, if I can see the second one here. For the first color space transform, what you want to do is make sure you put in your correct camera information. So for my camera, for the input color space for the FX3, I use Sony S Gamut 3 Cine, and I shot in S-Log 3 like I said before. And then for my output color space, I use DaVinci Wide Gamut. And then for your output color space, you want to put DaVinci Intermediate. The reason why I use DaVinci Wide Gamut is because it gives you the biggest color space to work with, and it allows you to play with your colors just a little bit more. So for the second color space transform node, you want to convert this DaVinci Wide Gamut into Rec 709. And then for my output gamma, I'm going to put gamma 2.4. So now we have those two nodes set, just to make sure I got everything right. Now that we have those two nodes set, what you want to do is you want to add some more serial nodes. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 serial nodes. I'm also going to expand this out some more. So you want to title these. You want to label this CST. You want to label this one CST as well, so you know which labels are changing what factors. And for my node color, usually for my CST nodes, I make them purple. So I'll make both of these CST nodes purple. And for these next nodes will be all your primary nodes. So primary nodes include exposure. You'll have your white balance. You'll have your contrast. Hopefully I spelled that right. And then you'll have your saturation. Sat. On this node here, I want to create 2 parallel nodes. So for this node right here, I'm just going to press Option P, and it'll create 2 parallel nodes for me. As you can see, our tree is getting a little bit more complicated. The last step, what you want to do is go in here and add 2 more serial nodes behind this last CST node, and you want to make these 2 serial nodes a compound node. I will get into the reason why you're doing this in a little bit, but for right now, just make them compound nodes. And you want to title this compound node Dehancer. All right, so now that we have everything set up, we want to go into this compound node, and we want to create another color space transform, label it color space transform. And I want you to go in here and convert this Rec 709 gamma 2.4 into Rec 709 cine film log. So this last color space transform, like I said, you want to put it in Rec 709 gamma 2.4, Rec 709 to cine on film log, and then we can hop right into Dehancer. So you want to drag and drop Dehancer right onto this last node. Boom. We can title this Dehancer as well. Once you open Dehancer, you want to choose your camera. I shot on a Sony FX3, so we're going to go down here to Cinema Line FX3. Like I said before, I shot in S-Log3. So first things first, I'll go down and turn off the film grain because I don't want to see it on my image right now. As you can see, based off of everything we've done so far, this image looks horrible. But there's going to be a few tweaks and things that we change in order to make this image look really good. First things first, I changed this Kodak to Kodak Vision 3500T. That's just the film profile I like the most. Dehancer gives you a crazy amount of options when it comes to film profiles, so you can really find and pick which one you think works best for you. Next, I want to go into my print profile, Kodak 2383 print film. It's essentially the standard when it comes to print profiles. I'm going to come all the way back over to this exposure node. So in this exposure node, we actually want to do it in the HDR tab. So first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this exposure on the global. Lower the exposure a little bit, and that's already looking a lot better than it did before. Just turn that on and off. As you can see, that looks better. Maybe up a little bit too. Next, we want to change our white balance. I do it in an offset, so I'll go back to this regular primary color wheel, and I change the white balance and offset. You want to make sure this is centered on this graph. And you also want to eyeball it too. So I think right there looks pretty good for white balance. I could scroll over a little bit. Actually, I don't like that, so I'm going to go back to there. I think right there is pretty decent. Next, I'm going to go to the contrast node, and I'm going to adjust the contrast in this offset. I'm going to come down a little bit on the contrast, not too much because I don't want the image to be too dark. I think that is perfect. So as you can see, turning on and off the contrast node, I did add a little contrast. Next, we're going to go into the saturation. Now, a lot of people do saturation in different ways. You can go down here and change the saturation. You can go over here to color boost, change this. Personally, what I do is I double tap and I go down here to color space and I use the HSV way. I find that this way gives you more dense colors, more deeper colors, and I like the effect of it a lot better than just changing to saturation on this panel. So after you do that, what you want to do is you want to go to channels. You want to make sure channels 1 and channels 2 are checked off. Then what you want to do is you want to go to this gain wheel, and you want to ever so slightly just move to where you feel like the saturation looks better. So I'm going to increase the saturation just not too much, because that's way too much. I'm going to just increase the saturation ever so slightly. And as you can see, we're a lot more saturated, colors look a lot more dense. We look better overall. Now, these parallel nodes are here to adjust everything outside your primary. So, for example, right here, I'm going to put temperature. And then right here, I'm actually going to put grain or texture. I just don't like using the grain in Dehancer. Personally, I just don't like the way it looks. But the grain in DaVinci Resolve actually is really nice. So I like to use the DaVinci Resolve grain. I'm not going to touch this node, but if you want to change something else, such as highlights, shadows, you can add another parallel node and adjust all those things. So next, what I actually want to do is hop right into this Dehancer node. Well, I take that back. Next, what I want to do is play with the temperature a little bit. I like a warmer feel. I kind of want to give this like a sunny summer day vibe. So I'm going to warm that up just a little bit, ever so slightly. As you can see, now we definitely have a warmer feel in this image, which I personally like. So next, I'm going to go into this Dehancer tab. Go ahead, open up that compound, go into this Dehancer node, and I'm going to scroll down. Like I said, I don't play with the film grain. I like the way DaVinci's film grain is, so I don't use Dehancer's film grain, but I do play with the halation. We're going to turn that on. We're going to leave that just how it is. You don't want too much halation. You can kind of see it on Quincy's Under Armour logo right here, but you don't want to play with that too much. You don't want it to take over your image, but you also just want like a subtle effect in the background. We're also going to turn on this bloom. As you can see, the bloom just gives the image a soft feeling, which I really like. Some people don't like Dehancer's bloom because it can take over the image. All you really have to do is turn it down just a little bit, and I find that the bloom really does give your image a softer feel. Maybe turn it up just a little bit more. Just like that. And now we have a nice soft image, which is what I really like. Next, we're going to turn on film damage, and I personally like the 65mm film damage. With all these effects turned on, you get a really nice cinematic image. So next, what you want to do is you want to exit that compound node, and you want to play with anything that you may not like after setting those film characteristics. So you can go down here. I might take this exposure down, this saturation down just a little bit. Last but not least, you need grain in your image, of course. That's kind of what sells the film look. Like I said, I don't like using the Dehancer grain. So what I do is I go in here and use the DaVinci grain. You do need the full version of DaVinci to use this. I'll drag and drop that into there. As you can see, the grain has popped up ever so slightly in the back, which is chef's kiss. That's what I love. You can play with it over here. You can change the opacity. You can increase it. You can decrease it. I'm going to decrease it a little bit. And honestly, I'm not going to touch nothing else. I literally like how that looks. That's perfect. And for the most part, that's really all I play with when I'm using Dehancer. Dehancer really makes my job a lot easier. As you can see, before we started with a very flat, lifeless image, and after creating this wonderful node tree and throwing Dehancer in it, it definitely gives your image a nostalgic film feel. The second method I want to show you on how to get a film look includes the power grade called Cineprint 16. It's something I used to use when I first started color grading, and I think it's a beautiful tool if you want to achieve that film look. First things first, once you buy Cineprint 16 and you have downloaded all the power grades, you want to make sure you import the power grades within DaVinci Resolve. And just in order to do that, after you've unzipped all the files that you get in the Cineprint 16 pack, all you have to do is go to your gallery, your power grade tab. You want to right click and you want to go to import, and once you do that, all your power grades should pop up. As you can see, all my power grades are here. I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop this Cineprint 16 version 2, and as you can see, there are a lot of nodes. But the good thing is that you don't have to create these nodes. These nodes are already created for you. The hard work has already been done. All you really have to do is plug and play, which is really the easiest part of this whole thing. So first things first, what you want to do is go to your CST. You want to make sure this is correct. So I shot in, like I said, S-Log3 on the FX3, so I want to go ahead and make sure these settings are correct. Honestly, you can leave this in RA wide gamut 3. You don't have to change this, but I'm going to change this to Rec 709. All right, so first things first, what I do is I automatically turn off Cineon and I turn on print. It just looks a lot better in my opinion. And if you even open this compound node, Tom Bowles is giving you so many different options. And you can play with these different print profiles. So again, this is 2383. I'm actually liking this better than I like this one. Part of me feels like I'm gonna use this instead. Yeah, I'm gonna use that one instead. But you have these profiles up here that you can play with as well. But for the sake of time, I'm gonna choose the one I like. And then we're going to go to grade exposure. Make sure this exposure is correct. I kind of wanna maybe just right there. I barely brought it down. Literally like 0.03. Contrast, I don't really want no more contrast. As you can see, I'm really dark here. I really don't want any more contrast. Endpoints, like I said, Cine per 16 is a lot of plug and play. So you can really just click on a node, and if you like the effect, leave it on. If you don't, turn it off. You know, I always love a little warmer look, so I'm gonna warm up this image just a little bit. And then my endpoints, this gives a little bit more contrast. I actually don't want that on, so I'm gonna turn it off. You have your vintage, which actually takes away a lot of color, which I'm actually liking. A flatter look. But I'm gonna leave it on right now, just go to gray saturation and then just turn the saturation down a little bit. Then after that, I'm going to go to this tab, and as you can see, this changes how things are looking. Whenever I use Cine per 16, I always turn this tab on. How does it work? I don't know, if I'm being very honest. But I like the effect it gives. While it does kind of insert a lot of noise in your image, that's what this denoise tab is up here for, to take some of that away. I personally turn off the grain here because I don't like how the grain is affecting my image at all whatsoever. So I'm gonna turn the grain off. And then I'm going to turn on gate weave. Of course, gate weave gives you that subtle shake in the image. That looks really nice. And like I said, it's really just plug and play. If you like what you see, you leave it on. If you don't like what you see, turn it off. I'm liking what I'm seeing here with these two tabs right here with this lab set, this lab mix. I'm actually gonna keep that off because as you can see, it kind of crushes this red right here, and that's not what you want at all. So I'm gonna turn that off. And honestly, I don't think I'm gonna play with anything else on this color grade. With Cine per 16, it's really just plug and play. As you can see, it's really time saving and really effective. Personally, I like the look of Dehancer a lot better, but Cine per 16 also gives you a very unique and nostalgic look. Don't mind the location switch. I do want to get into the last method on how you can get the film grain look completely free within DaVinci Resolve. You don't need to download any plugins. You can create everything within the DaVinci Resolve software. You do need the full version of DaVinci Resolve Studio in order to do this though. As you can see, we're using the same tree as we used before. I wasn't about to sit here and recreate the whole tree. You guys have seen it. You know how to create it now. The only differences between the tree I had when I was using Dehancer and this tree is that instead of Dehancer, we have a different film look, which I'll be getting into in a little bit. And we also have different parallel nodes. So the parallel nodes now consist of everything outside my primaries. They consist of things that will help me achieve the film look, such as temperature, grain, gate weave, dust, and film breathe. I originally had halation in this parallel node, but for some reason, the halation was not looking correct in the parallel node. So I just took it outside the parallel node and the halation's looking fine. I will be going over how to create all these nodes one by one, but first things first, I want to set my color space transform. This is actually footage shot on my Sony a7C that I used to own. I know a lot of people shoot on S-Log2 and not S-Log3, so I did want to throw in a variation of color spaces in this video. So this is actually fully shot on a Sony a7C, which is S-Log2. I've already inputted all the information you need to input in here. Like I said, it's literally the same as the one I use for Dehancer. This time, I'm just not using Dehancer. So again, our input color space this time is actually sRGB, which is the correct input color space for the Sony a7C and S-Log2. Again, I shot in S-Log2, not S-Log3 this time, and we're gonna use the DaVinci wide gamut as the output color space and then the DaVinci intermediate as the output gamma. We're gonna go back over here to the second CST node. We're gonna open this up. And again, we're gonna convert DaVinci wide gamut to Rec 709. That's already done. We're gonna go ahead and open up this compound node. And as you can see here, instead of Dehancer, it is something else here, which I will get into in a little bit. But first, again, you do want to create another CST node here, because without the CST node, once you turn this film look on, as you can see, this image looks really crappy. So you want to put in the correct color space. Again, you want to convert Rec 709 Gamma 24 to Rec 709 Cineon film log. That's already done. I do want to delete this node to show you guys exactly how to do this though. So what you want to do is create another serial node. Again, Option S is the shortcut on MacBook. Then what you want to do is you want to right click on the node, go to LUT, go all the way down here to film looks, and you want to play with these last 4 right here. Personally, I'm going to use the Rec 709 Kodak 2383 D60 film look. I like the way that looks. And we can even label this film look. And then for the node color, I'm going to do orange, why not? So now that's all done, we actually don't need to enter this compound node anymore. We can exit this compound node. And like I said before, you want to start playing with your primaries. First things first, I do want to play with this exposure a little bit. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit, not too much. The images are already kind of looking dark. I don't want it to look too dark. White balance, as you can see, it's all over the place. But I'm not really going to touch it. I'm actually going to try to center just a little bit, but I'm going to leave it there. I'm gonna leave the white balance right there. Next is our contrast node. Again, I'm gonna barely play with the contrast. I'm gonna leave it right there. Highlights, I'm not gonna touch the highlights. I'm gonna leave them how they are. And then for your saturation, I definitely wanna upgrade the saturation. Again, we're using the same HSV method that we use for Dehancer. So I'm gonna go here and up this gain on this saturation just a little bit. I'm liking the way that's looking a lot better. I'm actually gonna add one more node here, and I'm going to label this shadows. I kind of want to lift these shadows a little bit. I feel like they're a little too dark, too crushed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down here to lift, and I'm gonna lift these shadows. So as you can see here, I barely lifted shadows, barely, but I do like that look better. I don't want my black so crushed, even though they're still kind of dark. I'm gonna leave it like this. I think that looks good. All right, so now what I wanna hop into is the parallel nodes. The parallel nodes, again, are things outside of my primaries that I mess with, and in this case, they're all the film look. So first we have temperature. You guys know how to do temperature. It's the same thing as the one I use, Dehancer. You just go down here and play with the temperature tab. I am gonna warm this up just a little bit. You know I like the warm look. Not too much, but right there. Turn this off and I don't see that. Yeah, so I'm gonna warm that up. Just like that. I like how that looks. Next, we're going to turn on film grain. The same film grain that we use in the Dehancer tree node, we're using the same one in this fully DaVinci tree node. This is actually DaVinci Resolve's film grain. All you have to do is go to library, type in grain, you can drag and drop this onto this node. But I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it again. Go back here to film grain. And like I said before, I don't really touch it. I'm actually really liking the way that film grain is popping up. So I'm gonna leave it like that. Next is gate weave. Now there are many ways to input gate weave within your film on DaVinci Resolve. The way I do it personally is type in camera shake in the search bar, drag and drop camera shake onto your gate weave node. What you wanna do is you wanna move this motion scale all the way down, 0.2, 0.2, 0.02. Next, what you wanna do is you want to go here and move this all the way up to like 1.8. That's even still too much. See how this is shaking a little too much? We actually want to even put this down even more. to like 0.2. That's a much more subtle gate weave. I might even put it up to like 0.4. So boom, now that we have the gate weave dialed in, the next node I do want to play with is the damage node. I call it dust because it looks like dust when it's on the screen, but you want to type in film damage. And again, you just want to drag and drop it onto this node. Once you drag and drop it onto that node and you open it, I drop these to the focal factor, the geometry factor, and the film blur. And then I drop the dirt size down. My dirt density I put at 1. Everything else I kind of kept the same, but here are my settings to where I can get good dust if you want to copy these settings. And as you can see, we're seeing little white specks in this image now, which I really like. That looks good. All right, next we do want to do film breathe. Now film breathe is optional. This is like the flickering of color within film, like if you were to watch it on a projector. I personally don't like the way film breathe looks on DaVinci Resolve, but I will be showing you how to do it anyway. You can go in here and open this up. Personally, what I did is I turned off Flicker R channel and Flicker G channel, and then I play with the speed, smoothness, and range. Put them to these settings. I personally don't really like the way it looks. I mean, it does look good. I'm gonna leave it on, but I like the way Dehancer's flicker looks a lot better. But these are the settings I use for the global blend. I put mine at 0.055. Those are the settings I have in order for me to achieve the film breathe look fully within DaVinci Resolve. Last but not least, of course, we do have halation. I'll go to effects, and then we want to take down this strength a little bit to where it's not really jumping out the chain. Maybe turn it up a little bit. That looks really nice. It's not all in the way. It's kind of subtle in the background. And that's it. That's how I get the film look fully within DaVinci Resolve. We started off with no color, and then with just this simple node tree, we created a beautiful film masterpiece. Last but not least, I do want to talk about my export settings. These are important settings in order for you to get the highest quality out of DaVinci Resolve. I turn on use hardware acceleration if available, and I turn on network optimization within the export video. My format is QuickTime and my codec is H.264. My timeline resolution I don't touch, and my timeline frame rate I don't touch. For quality, I used to restrict it at 80,000, but now I keep it at automatic. I do like the way this looks when I export. My encoding profile is main 10. My keyframes are automatic, and my frame recording is turned on. It might be already on, I'm actually not sure. My pixel aspect ratio is square. My data levels are auto. My color space tag is Rec 709, and then my gamma tag is Rec 709A. Like I said, particularly for MacBook, I find that when I put Rec 709A, the colors look like how they looked when I edited in DaVinci Resolve. Next, I toggle on use optimized media. I also toggle on render cached images, force sizing to highest quality, and force debayer to highest quality. When I turn all these settings on, again, it just helps me get the highest quality image out of my video. As you can see, this is a totally different time of the day, but this is the end of this video. If you stuck around to the end, you're a real trooper, because I know this was a super long tutorial, but I hope that you got some valuable information out of this video, and I hope that your color grades can turn out beautiful. With all that being said, I'm gonna see you when I see you, man. I'm tired. Catch up with you. Also, let me know if you have any questions down below. I'll be happy to answer everything. I'm also gonna be listing all the videos that helped me make this video down below, so if I can't answer a question, those videos that I list down below definitely should be able to. Y'all be safe out there, man. Make sure your color grades look good.